Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to the game recap of Oilers versus Ottawa, October 21st, 2025. All right, so let's start off with the pregame. Wow, big news. Big news. Noah Phillip is not in the press box. He scored a goal. He was one of the stars in the last game, and Knobloch didn't put him in the press box. So, hallelujah. A little bit of common sense has finally taken hold. Unfortunately, Lazar is in the press box. So, the stupidity does continue with Knobloch. Kapanen, unfortunately, is out 6 to 8 weeks, they're saying. They didn't say what the injury was, but he's out for an extended period of time. Tomasek draws back in. Well, you had to choose between Tomasek and Lazar. Personally, and this is absolutely no offense to Tomasek, I would have gone with Lazar. You know, you got one has scored a goal and been a star. The other one has been, I've liked him on the power play, but other than that, as a net front presence, but other than that, he's been mostly invisible. So, you know, I would have gone with Lazar, but as I've said in other videos, it really does seem like Knobloch is painting Phillip and Lazar to be this year's Jeff Skinner. I don't know why. I have my suspicions he doesn't like them. So, yeah. So anyway, Howard and Savoy continue to be gifted unearned spots at this point. And Wallman draws back in, paired with Darnell Nurse. And Stetcher is the odd man out. Okay, that was predictable. I said that in the last video. That's what was going to happen. Personally, I still think they should have benched Bouchard for one game. Just to give him a wake-up call because his first games were not good. They weren't. And they weren't good for an average run-of-the-mill defenseman. As the team's top-paid defenseman and supposed number one defenseman, they were absolutely atrocious. So, you know, that would have been, heading into the game, that would have been my thought process. Phillip is back with Fredericks on the third line, but sadly they saddled him with Savoy. So we have to see how this works out. Savoy did not mesh well with McDavid, Leon, or Phillips thus far. So he's running out of centers to play with. The fourth line will be Henrique, Tomasek, and Howard. Again, heading into this game, Lazar would have been the better pick than Howard based on the first 6 games. No Hockey Canada officials in attendance this game, so does that mean Bouchard loses the engagement he found in the last game, but was missing in the first 1 to 5 games when there was no Hockey Canada? So, I don't know. We'll have to see how Bouchard plays tonight. And yeah, Skinner is in net. This will be Henrique's 1,000th NHL game over 15 years, so that's a huge accomplishment for any player. Top line will be Leon, McDavid, and Podkolzin. That's not a surprise. They were actually pretty good together last game for the most part. They weren't getting the results, but at least they were pressuring and in the mix. I really do believe that Leon, when you put Leon and McDavid out there, or even McDavid and RNH, that third person has to have a physical attribute to him. I think that's why Mangiapane and Savoy just don't mesh with McDavid, is because you always have Leon or RNH. You need that physical attribute for your other winger. And Mangiapane and Savoy they don't have that in their game. You know, so you can't put 3 of center and 2 skilled forwards out together, because in the NHL, you need to dig for pucks, and there is a physicality to the game, and that's what Podkolzin brings to that line. And I think that's why Leon's such a big fan of his, too. Second line is Mangiapane, RNH, Mangiapane, and Rosevich. So, you know, they seem to have chemistry in the previous games when they were together, so not a surprise either there. And then our defense will be Bouchard and Ekholm, Nurse and Wallman, Kulak and Emberson. I said going into this game, don't expect much from Wallman to be in his top readiness. He's had a lot of time off due to injury and little practice time. So, you know, I wouldn't expect him going at full speed in this game. All right, we get into the first period. In the very first minute, Bouchard stripped of the puck at the blue line. Ekholm breaks up the Sens rush from the turnover. So Ekholm say Bouchard's bacon. But again, here we go right off the bat, the turnovers. Bouchard has to be stronger on the puck. It's that simple. He's actually a fairly big boy, so there's no excuse for him being this soft. He's got to be stronger on the puck along the boards. Philip and Fredericks fight to create Oilers' first good scoring chance. These two really do have some chemistry together. We saw it last game in the first period before they got split apart. They weren't scoring, but they were dominating the play. They were cycling. The play was always in the opposing team's end. They were just a really strong third line. And then they got split apart and they put Savoy in Frederick's place, and the third line ended up getting hemmed into their own zone most of the time after that. So I was really happy to see Philip and Fredericks back together, and they started off this game strong. McDavid and Leon, glorious scoring chance. McDavid, a one-timer from the slot. It got stopped, but it was a beautiful chance, and it showed that they were in the game today. They came ready to play today. That has been missing in the first 6 games at times for those two. I don't know why, but they just have not been up to their normal amount. Savoy with speed to wave off an icing. Kid's got some speed. There's no doubt about that. He's a fast little bugger. But sadly, once he got the puck, nothing came of it. He didn't know what to do with it. Again, I've been saying it for a couple of videos now. Yamamoto. That's really who he reminds me of. Oiler penalty at 12:19. Cross-check by Nurse. It was a bad call. It was a push. It wasn't a cross-check. It was just your push. But they gave him the penalty. Majapani gets shorthanded breakaway, but flubs the shot. Ekholm made 2 nice defensive plays on the PK to set up Majapani's breakaway. So the PK was going nice at that point. Majapani seemed to be fighting the puck a bit tonight. Power play over. Oilers 2 shots. Ottawa 0 shots on the power play. So Oilers got 2 shots on the penalty kill. Ottawa got 0 shots on the power play. Yeah, they can't be happy about that. Solid save by Skinner. 11 minutes into the first, the shots on net were 4 shots for the Oilers, 2 shots for the Senators. And that's not good for either team. And 2 of the shots of our 4 were on the penalty kill. Howard definitely has some nice hands, but he still doesn't understand this is the NHL and not university. At the start of this game, he wasn't getting into where he needs to be to score. He's got nice hands. You can tell he has a shooter mentality, but he seemed timid from going into the hard spots, and that's where you're going to score in the NHL. Everybody can't be Alexander Ovechkin, and I'm sorry, Ike, you're not Alexander Ovechkin. You're going to have to work your way into the dirty spots to score. 3rd time this year, he's tried to deke out 3 defenders and gets shot down with no play made. So again, this is not university. You may have been able to stick handle around the university and junior defensemen. NHL, even the number 7s like Stetcher, they're not going to let you do that unless your name is McDavid or something. And again, you're not McDavid, so you're not Ovechkin. You're going to have to break your habits from the lower leagues. It's really what it comes down to is Howard right now, and this actually does change later in the game, so somebody clearly spoke to him about this, but up until this point, he's still approaching the game like he's playing in the university. And the NHL is not the university. You're not going to succeed doing that crap. We've seen AHL players fall into this. What was his name? We traded for him. This was years ago. We traded for him from LA, and he came in, and you could see he had a shooter mentality, but even he was saying he just didn't have the time and the space in the NHL that he was used to. He was a great goal scorer in the AHL. He was a great goal scorer in junior, everything. But once he got to the NHL, there was no goal scoring because he just could not adapt to the NHL game. He kept trying to treat it like it was junior and AHL, and that just wasn't working for him. I honestly can't remember his name right now. I'd have to look it up. So Phillips draws a slashing penalty at 4:09. Oilers power play. Both penalties have been super weak calls by the official. The one on Nurse was not a cross check, it was a push. And this one, it wasn't a slash. I think this was a makeup call for a blown call on Nurse, is what I think. You know, you can't take the penalty away that you handed out, so you gave the Oilers a power play. And it cost. McDavid scores .329, so 40 seconds into the power play, McDavid scores top right corner. What have I been preaching? If you want to score in this league nowadays, you got to shoot high most of the time. And that's exactly what McDavid did. Boom, in the net. Beauty goal. For McDavid's first goal of the year. McDavid from RNH and Bouchard. That was Bouchard's first point of the year. 7 games, first point. Now, how's that 10.5 million looking? And this is a secondary assist. Like the announcers all made, ooh, wow, ooh. No, he just passed it to RNH. RNH did the work, passed it to McDavid. McDavid shot it in. It was a secondary. It was the textbook secondary assist. All right, 1-0 Oilers. Oilers penalty holding to Howard at 1:19. Senators power play. That was the end of the first period. So 1:19 went by. Done. Shots on goal were 6-6. Second period. Howard, the penalty ends. Howard comes out of the box, streaks down. This time Howard got into the slot. This is what I've been saying. You can't be shooting from the top of the key. You can't be shooting from the blue line as a winger. You need to get into the dirty spots. He got into the dirty spot, boom, in his net, first career goal in the NHL. And it was a beautiful goal. It was on the ice. It wasn't, he didn't pick the top corner, but it was a quick enough release. He has a fast release. Like I haven't said anything about, he's obviously got hands. It's just, is he ready for the NHL game? This may be a turning point for him, this goal, because he was a completely different player from this point on than he has been for the first 6 games and the first period of this game. Completely different now. So anyway, yeah, he got his first goal. What I wrote was Howard finally got himself into the slot and rewarded for it. This is what I've been saying about both Howard and Savoy. They need to get into the prime scoring spots, not be perimeter players or shoot from top of the key or the blue line. Very nice goal by Howard. 2-0 Oilers. Majapani and RNH team up for a nice offensive chance. Majapani is off balance, but he's getting into the spots. Like I said, Majapani seemed to be fighting the puck tonight. But he was getting into the spots and he was getting engaged. And that's really what I look for, even above who scored what, is are they engaged? Are they involved? And he was definitely getting himself in the spots. He just, like I said, he was fighting the puck. Something he wasn't doing, getting into the spots, is something he wasn't doing with McDavid. He was trying to be a perimeter skill player with McDavid. And as I said earlier, that doesn't work because you already have RNH and McDavid, or you have Leon and McDavid. You need somebody with some grit and physicality. And Majapani or Savoy, when they were up with McDavid, they weren't bringing that to the game or to the line. You know, I think Podkolson's the right call for that line. You know, Podkolson or Fredericks, or when Hyman is healthy, Hyman. Amazing save by Skinner on ex-Oiler David Perron. Skinner has once again come to play. Howard is now getting into the spots he needs to be in for success as a goal scorer. And this is what I was saying, is after that he got that goal, it seemed like it changed. He started doing what he's supposed to be doing rather than what he was doing in the first 6 games and 1 period. Like, it kind of like clicked upstairs, and it's like, oh, this is what they're talking about. And you could tell that for the rest of the game. He was getting into those spots finally. He's still a little high, so he's still fighting that university mentality, because they said it last game. It's like at the top of the key. He was scoring all these goals in university from the top of the key. Well, that's university. He's not going to score those goals in the NHL. He has to get in. But so he's still a little bit high, but you see a definite improvement happening. So I'll be interested in the next game. Does he revert back to the first 6 games, or does he keep moving forward from what he built on this last 2 periods of this game? What I wrote, it's really not about goals and points. It's about being involved in the play and getting in position for the goals and points to come. This has been Howard's best game so far this year. And it's not about the goal. As I just said, it's about him getting into the position where he can be rewarded. You get into those positions with his skill, he will get rewarded. But if you play as a perimeter player and just scoot around the outside, you're Kyler Yamamoto, which is what the trap that Savoy's fallen into. Nice save by Skinner on a 2-on-1 because Bouchard did a bad pinch, but Skinner bailed him out. Senators take a penalty at 3:33 of the second period hooking. Oilers power play. No shots on net for the entire power play. The game turned at this moment. We started to see all that bad stuff from the previous 4 games come into this game at that point. Oiler penalty at 19:04 of the second period. Nurse for tripping. Now, was it a bad penalty? I mean, it's going to get called every time. Like, there's no doubt about that. So I'm not going to moan and groan about that. Darnell needs to be smarter. But the one thing I did right is one thing I really hate about the modern day NHL, and this is all teams, this isn't Oilers, this isn't Senators. Every team does this, and I despise it, is how they all fall over as soon as a stick slightly touches them. You know, like, okay, Darnell got a stick where it shouldn't go, but there was no reason for this player to fall over. There really wasn't. To me, that's diving. Okay, give Darnell the 2 minutes for tripping. Give that guy 2 minutes for embellishment. Like, this is a part of the NHL game, modern NHL game. And again, all teams do it, including the Oilers. So I'm not calling any one person out. I'm just saying to the officials, start giving these guys embellishment. There's no reason for him to be falling over and sliding on the ice like he's been shot. There's really not. And the last thing I want to see in hockey is it become soccer. I don't want that. I hate that. So, okay, Darnell got a stick where it shouldn't have been. Give him the penalty. But give the other guy an embellishment penalty for acting like it was so much worse than it really was. Took us to the end of the second. Shots on goal at the end of the second was 12-17 for Ottawa. So Ottawa got 11 that period. Oilers got another 6. But score is 2-0 for the Oilers. Third period. Nurse's penalty is still on the books. Senators score 13 seconds into the period. Power play goal, 2-1 Oilers. It was a nice goal. Not going to say anything else about it. It was a nice power play goal. Good shot. Done. But then at 18-11, the Senators score. Now, this was not a good goal, but this wasn't Skinner's fault. You have 2 Senators and Kulak and Emberson all together basically standing on top of Skinner. He can't see a bloody thing, and we just saw this last game with Ekholm. Give your goalie a chance to see the frickin' puck. Like, come on. And that's what it was. The guy shot it from the blue line. It deflected off of Kulak's skate, but that's really here nor there because Skinner didn't react because Skinner couldn't see anything. It is up to Kulak and Emberson to push those Senators out of the slot so that your goalie can actually see the shot. That's 2 games in a row. Like, somebody's got to talk to our defense. Ekholm did it last game, and then Kulak and Emberson did it this game. Your job as a defenseman is to move those players out of the slot so that your goalie can see the shot. Skinner would have stopped this puck if he could have seen it. So it's 2-2. As I mentioned, Howard now has a shooter's mentality. Now, good to finally see it. He's getting into the spots he needs to get into, and he's trying to shoot now. And that is going to serve him well moving forward. He's still got holes in his game. Make no mistake. He's still not he's like Bouchard. He's got the offensive gift, but he's still got a lot of defensive holes in his game. So I'm still not convinced it's not a smart move to send him down to the AHL to work on those deficiencies. But on a strictly offensive point of view, it's clicking now. He's getting into the spots he needs to get into to find success offensively. So we'll have to see moving forward. But if Howard seems to have taken that next step this game. If the Oilers raised the puck, it would be 3-2 for the Oilers. But Savoy shot. Omark was on the ice. Like, he was flailing on the ice. Belly to ice. So you got all that net above him open. Savoy twice shoots it right into Omark at ice level. If you've watched any of my videos, I've been harping on this for quite a while. Raise the damn puck. I really do believe in the modern day NHL, you need to shoot 60 to 70% of your shots to the top 25% of the net. It is almost impossible nowadays to score a long ice level. Not impossible, but very low percentage chance. And when the goalie is on his belly, raise the damn puck. That was the end of the third, 2-2. So shots on net were 21-20 for the Oilers. So the Oilers picked up 5 more shots, and the Senators only got, I believe, 3 shots. Yep, 3 shots in the third period. And they scored twice. So overtime. Oilers draw a penalty at 4:35, slashing. It was a lazy penalty by the Senators, but it was a slash, and it was a stupid. I'm sure their coach is just reading that player the riot act. So Oilers have a power play 4-on-3. It was sloppy, but they had good pressure in the final 20 seconds. And with 1 second left on the power play, they had the first unit power play had come off the ice, and the second unit came on with 3 or something seconds. The first center gets kicked out, so Savoy has to go in. Savoy wins the draw over to Ekholm. Ekholm definitely passes it back to Wallman, and Wallman just lets loose with a howitzer to the top of the net. Oilers score. They win 3-2 in overtime. If you watch my previous videos, you know I've been screaming for Bouchard to do exactly this. So it does my heart good to see at least we have one big shot defenseman willing to do it. So shots on goal at the end of the game were 24-20 for the Oilers. The Oilers win 3-2. All right, so my 3 stars for tonight. I'm just going to go with what Sportsnet picked. I can't argue with what they picked. Wallman, overtime winner, first game back. You got to reward him with a star. And it was a gorgeous goal. He was, what I said in the game stood true. He was not involved in all of the game, but I didn't expect him to be because of the long layoff. But when it counted the most, he delivered. Number 2 star is Stu Skinner. It's his 100th win in his NHL career, and he would only allowed 1 goal if Kulak and Emerson had just done their jobs as defensemen. You can't blame him for that second goal. I'm sure some people out there will. The other day, when Skinner got his shutout, these toxics were still complaining about him. So I'm sure there's people out there that are going to blame him for that second goal. It wasn't his fault. So he definitely deserved one of the stars. And then I'm going to do an about face from my previous videos. I'm going to give Isaiah Howard the other star of the night. He got his first goal, but more importantly than getting the first goal, after the first goal, he got engaged. And that's what I've been looking for. Get engaged, get involved. And that's what he was. So I will be interested to see how he progresses or regresses come the next game. I'm hoping it's progression. I really am. But we'll see. But yeah, this game was a turnaround for him, and this was a breakout for him. Make no mistake about it, because he's not been good up till now. Contrary to the nonsense you hear from some of the media out there, he's not been good as an Oiler. But once he got that goal in, it's just like a light went on, and the confidence came, and yeah, it was night and day. His play was night and day after that. My 3 slugs for the night. Okay, I did have Savoy as one of the slugs until he won that face-off, and I don't like removing the slug from him just because he won a single face-off all game. But it was the game winner, so I'll give him a break. I'm not going to give him a star for it, but I'm not going to give him a slug for it. But I will say he still reminds me of Yamamoto. Whereas Howard is now going to those spots and he's trying to make the plays he needs to make. Savoy is still just playing soft. Lots of skill. And you can see there's skills there. There's skill there. There's absolutely no doubt there's skill there. But he's playing it like he's a perimeter player. And that's what we saw from Kyler Yamamoto all those years. And I did not like Yamamoto either. I said it before. If you are going to be an undersized player, which Savoy is, then you need to play like Theo Fleury or you need to score like Patrick Kane. Simple as that. If you can't do those 2 things, what do you bring to the team? So the 3 slugs that I did go with were Rosovich. He was invisible. And I've said this before. It's like for veteran players, and he is a veteran player. He's new to the Oilers. So I give him a break on that. But you still got to be engaged. You still got to be involved. And he was invisible for most of the night. Tomasek, same thing. I did not notice Tomasek all game. I really didn't. Like, he's not on the power play anymore. So that's really where I was noticing him before as the net front presence. So he's not getting that. He's on the fourth line, and I did not notice him all game. Like, if I'm not lock, I'm bringing Lazar in. Exactly what I said today is like, it should have been Lazar for the fourth line, and that's what I'm doing. So we'll see if he does that. I don't think he will. Knobloch has made it pretty clear by his actions, not his words, but his actions, that I don't think we're going to see Lazar and Phillip in the same lineup at the same time. He's always going to make sure one of those two is in the press box. But yeah, if I'm Knobloch, I'm sending Tomasek back to the press box and bringing in Lazar for the next game. And then the third slug I have to give to Darnell Nurse. And I'm going to explain this. He took 2 penalties, and one of the penalties cost us a goal. So that's why he got the slug. But that first penalty was a joke. It was an absolute joke. And like I said, I think the officials realized it, and that's why they gave that second joke penalty to Ottawa to make up for the first joke penalty. It was an absolutely atrocious call. So you really can't blame Darnell. No player can control what the officials do. When the officials want to be a part of the game, they're going to find a way to be a part of the game. And I think that's what happened on that first call. The second call, though, like I said, Darnell got his stick where it shouldn't have been, and the player dived. Well, okay, you can give that other player embellishment, and they should. They really should. But Darnell, you got your stick where it shouldn't have been, and it went down and it cost us a goal. So for that reason and that reason alone, you're getting slug of the night on that one play. But Darnell was not our worst defenseman out there by a long shot. But that cost us. So anyway, great we won, but again, we shouldn't be battling Ottawa. Like, Ottawa's not a good team. This should have been a cakewalk. This should have been a blowout for the Oilers. And instead, we're going into overtime. So there's something wrong with this team. There really is. Skinner was very strong tonight, but 2 games in a row, our defense have screened him. So somebody's got to talk to our defenseman and say, move these players out of the slot and get out of the way of your goalie. Let your goalie see these shots. Point shots should not be going in, but if the goalie can't see the puck, any goalie in the league's going to let it in unless they get unless the puck hits them. Literally just hits them. It's not a save, it just hits them. At the NHL level, this shouldn't be an issue. It really shouldn't. I had a buddy that played junior hockey, and he played defense, and he talked about this all the time. And this was, this was 40 some years ago now. So this is not a new concept. God, I'm old. Anyway, this is not a new concept. Clear the front of the net and let your goalie see these shots. So anyway, next game up is this Thursday. So against Montreal Canadiens, and it's being played in Edmonton. Thursday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. Oilers are now 3-1, and the Canadiens are 5-2. And that's my recap. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. I've been getting some good comments. Some people are appreciating, and if you appreciate my videos, please share them to people you think will appreciate them. That's the only way. Like, YouTube is so hit or miss on recommending videos that if you like what I'm doing, please share it to people you think will like it so they can subscribe and follow and get notified when I put up a new video. It's the only way I'm going to grow the channel. Also, commenting really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.